Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Secrets of the Sphere, your source for the true story on all that occurs in the Inner Sphere. As always, I am your host, Kyle Denoto, the Questioner. Tonight's topic, the Cameron question. I believe it's safe to say that all our discerning listeners know the history of House Cameron, the grand dynasty that saw the Inner Sphere through the golden age of the First Star League. Betrayed by the usurper Stephen Amaris, all 79 members of First Lord Richard Cameron's family were murdered in a single act of barbarism, whose repercussions would last for centuries. Or so they would have us think. As some of you might not know, there were actually 80 members of the First Lord's royal family. Amanda Cameron, the 11-month-old daughter of Robert Cameron, was actually a twin. And she and her brother were secreted off planet in the final hours of Amaris' strike on Terra. I will not rehash the evidence of their clandestine escape from the Terran hegemony. My esteemed colleague Sandra Rains has more than proven the truth to the story already, but many had always suspected that the Cameron line did not die that night. I know what you are asking yourselves. Why bring this up now? The downfall of House Cameron has been lost into the annals of history. What more needs to be said? Except, dear listeners, the Secrets of the Sphere team has recently come into possession of new evidence that Daniel Cameron, a direct line descendant of Ian Cameron and the Star League throne, might still be alive. Yes, you heard it here first, folks. There is a chance a descendant of House Cameron still lives. While working on an exclusive piece on the current whereabouts of the mysterious Knights of St. Cameron, I recently happened on a former member of the Cult of St. Cameron, the semi-mystical order that still worships the Cameron family, who provided the information that led this stunning revelation. Our informant, who has requested to remain nameless to protect their identity, has informed us that the modern descendants of the cult have long suspected that a descendant of one of the Cameron twins might still be alive. They base their beliefs on a set of lost prophecies that allegedly came from the lost journals of Mother Jocasta Cameron herself, which foretold of a child that would bring House Cameron back to the stars. With that as a starting point, we returned to the Taurian world of New Vandenberg, the closest major planet to where the SLS Tripitz was lost. This warship, rumored to have secreted the twins away from Terra, was later found adrift in a system not far from New Vandenberg. Using this new information, we located a pair of twins approximately the correct age that had traveled toward Horsham, a former Star League shipyard and a habitable colony only one jump from the holdings of the Stuart Cameron family of the Federated Sons. Through tireless research, our team was able to find one Daniel Cameron on Mendham, a planet just one jump from Horsham. Daniel, a computer programmer, graduated at the top of his class at the University of Mendham Doran City and was also rumored to be the illegitimate child of Jonathan Stuart Cameron, one of the members of the Distaff Stuart Cameron line. Further evidence was destroyed, however, as Daniel's birth records were lost in a suspicious server failure 3 years ago. The clincher for yours truly is that Mindham just happens to host the largest remaining population of the cult of St. Cameron left in the Inner Sphere. An obvious connection when you think of how they would wish to keep an eye on the young heir until he could come into his true destiny. Could this all be coincidence? Perhaps. Or perhaps this is just a part of a far larger conspiracy. 3 days after we uncovered Daniel's potential lineage, our suspected Cameron heir decided to take a sudden, unplanned business trip to Addix in the Draconis Combine. The same day that our informant left their home never to return. Does all this portend a return to power for the Cameron lineage? While House Cameron is currently landless, the merging of the Curita royal family with the historic House Cameron line could provide legitimacy for the next heir to the dragon's throne, not to mention a formidable claim to the legacy of the Star League itself. I don't think it's too much to say that not since the wedding of Hans Davian and Melissa Steiner has there been a better chance for a massive matrimonial upheaval to rock the very core of the Inner Sphere. I'm sure I don't have to tell our politically savvy listeners what sort of a game changer this is. A direct descendant of the Cameron line, despite having no major political power of their own, would be a powerful marriage prospect even now, giving the beleaguered nations of the Inner Sphere someone to rally behind. Unfortunately, all of our subsequent attempts to learn more about Daniel Cameron and his current whereabouts have been for naught. Requests for information from both Daniel's employer and the passenger liner he supposedly boarded have been refused, citing privacy concerns. Inquiries to an MIIO agent speaking anonymously to protect their position informs us that Daniel Cameron is not a person of interest to the Davion intelligence apparatus. My team finds themselves stymied at every turn, a clear sign that there is nothing more to find, or that someone desperately wants us to believe that. Furthermore, we cannot ignore the potential opportunity before us. With 3 clans currently bearing down on the birth world of humanity itself, we cannot underscore the potential effect the return of House Cameron would have upon the various clans. While Nicholas Kerensky is the founder of the clans, it was his father, the fabled visionary and SLDF commanding general Alexander Kerensky, who took the remaining Star League Defense Force beyond the periphery. After the massacre of the Cameron family, Alexander believed that no one who truly deserved to be the custodians of the Star League's vaunted ideals was left. Many of the clans still revere the family that ushered their ancestors through some of the best times the Inner Sphere has ever seen, and they remember all too well the horrors of what came later when the House Cameron was betrayed. Warden or Crusader, if a clan was given the opportunity to serve a true descendant of the First Lord of the Star League, what sort of effect would that have on the galaxy as a whole? This begs several questions. What does the existence of a living descendant of House Cameron mean to the Inner Sphere as a whole? Where are the Knights of St. Cameron, and will they return? Are there more lost prophecies from Mother Jocasta, and are the cult of St. Cameron keeping them from us? And will the Cameron family once again become a major player in the epic history of the Inner Sphere? Or will they remain only a haunting reminder of all we have lost in the last great betrayal of human history. As always, I leave it to each of my listeners to decide their own answers. Tune in next week for another broadcast of Secrets of the Sphere. This is your host, Kyle Denoto, reminding you to remain ever vigilant and keep questioning.